Okay, well, welcome everyone. My name is Sarah Friar. I am a co-founder of Ladies Who Launch. I think you all know me by now. And I also daylight job on Nextdoor as the CEO of Nextdoor. So hopefully you're all being kind to your neighbors too. Welcome to the fifth in our series of Lunch with Ladies Who Launch. It's not quite lunchtime, but we've kind of realized food happens all over the place. I'm looking forward to the cocktail hour that we're going to do of one of these. This webinar is focusing on essential services and the retail space in particular. And of course, you've seen that we've done fitness, we've done finance, we've done, one of the first ones we did was around the food vertical. So we've been getting some phenomenal tips and tricks from amazing entrepreneurs. Today, we're going to talk to two such amazing entrepreneurs. The first that I'm going to introduce is Susan Griffin-Black. Susan is the CEO of EO Products. EO Products makes a variety of goods inspired by nature's pure essential oils, including a line of hand sanitizing products. I'm actually a huge customer of the line and love it. During COVID-19, she had to pivot fast. Hand sanitizer, luckily, is one of the goods that everyone has had to buy. And of course, as we go through into our new abnormal, whatever that will be, washing our hands is going to be right there at top of mind. Susan herself has managed the company for the last 25 years, and so she's going to talk about how she pivoted, how she's kept her team in action, and really how she's thought about managing through crisis. And then she's joined by Ronnie Can. Ronnie is joining us from Australia, so it's 7 a.m. for her almost. She is the CEO of OzHarvest, an organization that delivers food and other vital services to the homeless and the underprivileged. Like many businesses, OzHarvest has definitely felt the effects of COVID-19 with an expected loss of maybe up to $5 million in donations and fluctuating food supplies. So Ronnie too has had to learn to manage through that crisis and shift her focus and the organization's focus to food rescue efforts and donations to keep their vans on the road and continue serving the people that really need their help. So with that, I'm going to go straight into the conversation. And to both of you, and maybe we'll start with Susan and then I'll go to Ronnie on this question. Just give us a little bit the lay of the land. What have the last 4 or 5 weeks been like? And tell us a little bit about what's changed for you. So Susan.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. Very happy to be talking with you all. So what happened for us is in mid-February, we realized that hand sanitizer and hand soap sales were just skyrocketing, and we couldn't really quite get a handle on it, didn't know if it was a temporary situation, and then as it unfolded, became more and more critical. And we saw this before when H1N1 happened. We were quite a bit smaller, but at that time, that was during the recession, and actually we were moving to a 4-day work week because sales were on the downturn during that time. And then the fax machine went off and drugstore.com ordered $100,000 worth of hand sanitizer. And I was sure there were one too many zeros in there. And then they verified it. And then, you know, sort of everything was just a big whoosh. So we had that experience behind us at a different size and a different time. So when we saw this starting to happen, then it just really was like an avalanche of purchase orders that we couldn't fill. No one knew what was going to happen, how fast it was going to happen. And, you know, I feel like when you're making something that's of value for people's health, it's much more important than some other specialty luxury products that we make. And it's almost like food or water or something that people really need. So the pressure to really perform under these circumstances seemed more meaningful and purposeful. And also the question of how to really get product to first responders and just local neighborhoods and local people was so problematic because, you know, we're used to the pipeline fill of the palletized, you put it on a truck, it goes to somebody else's warehouse, and then they ship it back. So our local little store, our grocery store around the corner, Good Earth, you know, all of these near Whole Foods, they didn't have any inventory. Walgreens, zero hand sanitizers by, the middle of March. So that was really frustrating. So then we just decided and committed to only producing hand sanitizers and hand soaps. And we've been on that production schedule, 2 shifts, 6 days a week, and we take every other Saturday off so people stay safe and sane. And we're doing the best we can to make as much as we can for as many people as we can.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing to hear that your staff is working that hard as well, because it is effectively an essential service. Ronnie, give us a little bit your story too.
Well, thank you first of all so much for the opportunity to be with this gorgeous group of women and to share the story with women, and whoever's listening and watching. Well, fundamentally, Australia through the summer, our summer, went through bushfires of a type that we had never seen before. Given that what we do is emergency food relief every day, we were tested through the fires, because whilst they didn't happen right where our head offices are, we have offices in every state, but we also have regional offices. And so we saw the need and had to jump into and amplify our services. We were just coming through that when the first of COVID came through to us. And every March, we hold our major fundraiser. It is an exquisite event. It's for 2,000 people, but it gets us $3.5 million of investment, which is fundamental to our annual sustainability. And within a couple of weeks, it became very apparent that we would have to pull that event. So that was the first of a huge shock and trying to repivot, whilst also recognizing that I have 200 staff, of which about 80 or 100 are frontline, delivering food out to vulnerable people. So all workers that could become remote started working from home. Our drivers stayed on the road, but the fluctuations in food in those first couple of weeks were just insane. People were plundering the supermarkets, which meant that the supermarket supply needed to it's all the ripple effect of the whole supply chain. So the other major source of revenue for us is we have one of the biggest cooking schools in Australia. It's team building. We bring in the staff of every major corporation. They come in for 3 hours. It's an extraordinary experience. They learn skills. They learn not wasting food, sustainability, and very popular, almost 300 days a year. And of course, that's face-to-face. That happens nationally. Every booking got cancelled. And the revenue from that was around another 2 million that we would have expected. So we started with a 5 million gap. Apart from the fact that now we were losing our major source of what we do, which is food. So the exquisite thing is that, of course, we pivoted, we scrambled. Food rescue and food relief became the focus. Our education programs have since turned digital. So we've been able to deliver them to schools, to teachers, to vulnerable people. But food relief is the main focus, and the food supply has settled down, but we quickly mobilized more sources. In the couple of weeks when every hospitality business closed, we collected so many tons of food that we collected more food in those couple of weeks than we had for months prior to that.
So you found kind of almost the opportunity in the crisis.
And that's what we've done ever since. So we've redeployed staff, and we've re-engaged with our suppliers in such a fundamental way that we are providing service to them, and so food rescue has settled the amount of food there is, thanks to great relationships, which I guess is a very big, if you're in business, It's about the relationships that you created, you make, and you can continue for the long haul.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, I'm going to use that as a segue in, because both of you have collaborated with other companies as you thought about getting your product out there and so on. So Susan, I know, for example, you work with Lyft, but you've gone far beyond that, right? You work with the city and county of San Francisco, you've worked with public agencies and so on. So, you know, I think as a business person myself, sometimes it's a little easier to write the story with history because it begins to make sense. Although I recognize that in the moment, you're just like real time making decisions and flying a little by the seat of your pants. But now as you look back, talk about how you worked with others and what you learned that, you know, if you were talking to one-on-one to another person running a business, what have you learned that maybe they could now draw from?
Yeah, quite a bit, you know, sort of under pressure. So the first thing for me is always to just take a pause so that I can really absorb what is happening right now and, you know, and look at the key factors in our business. Is it stores are closing? You know, what's the state of our receivables? And, you know, just sort of the critical markers that we all have to look at all the time become, you know, really illuminated. And then, so there's that piece of it that's critical. Health and safety of our staff and how that ripples out into our greater community. So making sure that we had every checkpoint covered. We built, you know, sneeze guards and shields and in our manufacturing facility so that people could continue to work. Everybody else worked from home. We haven't had to furlough anyone, so that's been great, you know, and then how to best support them. And then really who needs what first and fastest, and to try to prioritize what that would be like and then make decisions accordingly. So that, you know, if Amazon was responding in a exponential way because of their algorithm, how important is that, along with our distributor business, along with our local business? And then all bets are off because we have to service first responders first because, you know, they're up against it. And then how do you juggle all of that with the supply chain demand and need? And I think part of it also is just not getting greedy. You know, it's like, we're not going to have it all. We can't possibly grow that much that fast. And, you know, as a business person with all this adrenaline and, you know, which is how we thrive in the first place, you know, it's like, oh my God, you know, it's like missed opportunity, missed help, missed everything, right? So what can we realistically do? Who could we partner with? You know, what can actually happen? And instead of focusing on what the lost opportunity is, or, you know, I can't believe I'm missing that. So just the grounding and being able in a very practical way to map out resources, allotment, and respond has helped us quite a bit.
Yeah, I love that advice in there because I do agree that as a business person myself, I get a little bit caught up in the missed opportunity or you're kind of paid in some ways to find the problems. I once had someone say the highs got lower and the lows got lower, and I don't want to work in a situation where that's the case. But I agree that it's hard in crisis not to feel constantly aware of where you're missing, and you don't have time to celebrate the good things, particularly in a pandemic, right, where people are losing their lives. So you particularly, I think, have the emotional baggage of you're not in celebration mode. So I think that is a really great kind of, I think, words of wisdom in there. Ronnie, how did you structure thinking through the partners that you would work with, what you would prioritize, and that balance that Susan just talked about,
Yeah.
you know, the Amazons versus the distributors versus her local business?
Yeah. So under uncertainty, absolutely, and uncertainty around a health issue, the first and foremost was safety of staff, safety of all of our recipients, and safety on every level of our supply chain. In terms of my management team, we went from having a weekly management meeting to a morning, every morning, like the war room. We get together remotely, where the plotting and the planning and the prioritizing started taking place, who we can partner with, how we get more food out to more people, which leveraging every vehicle, leveraging every aspect of the business and those relationships again. So we partnered with other food rescue organizations that we'd never partnered with, that ego and challenges had always stood in the way. And now the CEO of another food rescue organization and I speak, and we would have said, you'd have told us 4 months ago that we would be speaking almost daily, sharing resources, lobbying together for more funding. The lobbying for funding, we collaborated, we led a charge that the charity sector should not be forgotten, because in the first business surplus deliveries from our government, the charity sector was last. First, in terms of economic stimuli, it went straight to business, it went straight to aviation, it went straight to every part of the business world. And we led a charge and lobbied to get the charity sector a significant chunk of money. And so that took collaboration, calling on a whole bunch of other charities, not necessarily connected to food, but to make that ask. And that absolutely is how we have got through, because grant money has come through both to us, but to all aspects of the sector. So again, it is about prioritizing, but there's no doubt that out of crisis comes opportunity. So as I mentioned, leveraging our education programs and quickly redeploying them and turning them digital has been a huge boon for us. And, we are now in the planning stages of what post-COVID looks like, even though we're not out of it. But that too, I think, is the most important thing. You go into a pandemic completely unprepared, unprecedented. Whoever has been through such a thing, you might have had some levels. We certainly haven't. We live on an island, a magnificent island, far away from everybody, which is our strength, but sometimes is our weakness. But being able to, and new business opportunities are definitely coming out of this. We are now producing 10,000 ready-cooked meals a week and delivering them when we used to only produce 300 a day, but the need has risen, has doubled and almost trebled. And so now we will be doing that forever, probably. Now, mobilizing chefs and cooking food and delivering ready-made, gourmet, healthy, beautiful food to anyone in need.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, I think, the silver lining. I call it the make it a feature, not a bug. How we Ladies Who Launch is an in real life event series where we could never have dreamed of having an entrepreneur from Australia and an entrepreneur from the US to the West Coast sitting on the same panel. And yet we'd always dreamed about these women we met all over the world who had, so much in common in a way. How could we bring them together? So we are learning that same motion. Can we go back to your employees for a moment and just how you kept people motivated? So Susan, I think you began to go there when you talked about just how much your employees are working right now. And I do worry about burnout, right? People have had the adrenaline of this first wave, but it's hard to run a marathon on adrenaline. So how are you thinking about keeping employees motivated, but also healthy? Not just from COVID-19, but like mentally.
No, mentally healthy. Yeah, it is really like a triathlon or something as it's been sort of unfolding, because I almost think that Governor Newsom was waiting till the last minute to tell us that this was going to be extended through May, even though we all knew it was coming. But there was a little bit, I think, that we were saying like, maybe, something. So I think everyone is not really mentally prepared, even though we know, that it's the best thing. So it's been, physical health and well-being first, because we know what to do about that, right? So, face just all of the hygienic things and all of the protective measures that we've taken. And then it really is about psychological, mental well-being, and what it's like for parents to be at home with children all day. So the family part of it, the mental health part of it, and and just the expectation piece of it, and how much do we modify that, and what is the right boundary. And I think it's really all an experiment, and we've been learning. So we have a stand-up meeting, Zoom meeting every day with senior leadership, and then with different departments, just to check in to see how everybody's doing, what we can do for each other that would be better, more supportive. And then we pull together and, shift around as best we can, as much as we can, that makes the most sense for the most amount of people.
Has there been any really good thing that you've done that you would say, hey, you should think about this? Like we did a team meditation for 10 minutes on an all hands call, and I had so many people tell me how amazing that was.
I think we did an all hands meeting, and I think that was the best thing. Just to really have everybody tuning in at the same time, to acknowledge where everybody was and what everybody was going through, was really meaningful and connected. And I think it really boosts everybody's reason for being and giving things heart and meaning.
Yeah. Ronnie, I know with your team, you've said we can stop events, we can stop sporting matches, we can stop handshakes, but we can't stop feeding people. So you live in a very purpose-driven organization. Talk a little bit about how you've kept people motivated and focused on your mission. I think you launched a fundraising campaign called #HereForHope. So we'd love to hear a little bit more about that too.
Yeah, so apart from that, I just will go into what we do every day. So first of all, we created a role just prior to COVID called the head of DNA, delivering nourishment to all. And that person's role is literally to check in with everyone in the business. We did a survey very quickly on just to check in how everybody's doing. Every single day, a comms goes out. In the first maybe 4 weeks, it was from me every afternoon at 4 to every person in the business. 1, we decided that over communicating was better than under. And 2, just motivational, just sharing what we all were feeling, putting it in words, very little stories, anecdotes, and some hard truths, sharing the facts. This is what we're going to do. We don't yet know. We're going to try our very best to keep every job. Just know that, yes, you can see that people are losing their roles in other businesses. My commitment is I'm going to do everything I can to keep every one of you employed, etc. And so we very much were big on the communication with our stakeholders and relationships. We did decide the best thing we could do was create what we think has been our best campaign ever, and it is #HereForHope. And I think even the name made people go into it, but we've had more success with this campaign. It is a fundraising campaign saying that every dollar that we raise allows us to deliver 2 meals, that there's not a lot you can do when you're sitting at home. We can't take volunteers right now. We can't take your food. The only thing you can do if you've got $1, $2, if thousands of us give just a little bit, it will go a long way. And that campaign, #HereForHope, is still going. It's very much alive and well. We also call and thank everybody that donates. And that has raised us the most, a really beautiful amount. We've raised over $500,000, which fantastic. Means we can deliver 1 million more meals, but we are now delivering, annually we normally deliver 25 million meals a year. We know already this year we will be more than 35 million because of the need. So the need is great. It hasn't stopped. And yeah, the Here for Hope campaign has been beautiful. Again, just making sure that everyone's healthy. We've done an all-in. We've done a couple of all-ins, which was phenomenal. I think 100 people managed to participate, which is just beautiful. We're doing our next one next week. And we give all the management team, and we give opportunity to people to talk, to share stories.
Yeah.
So that motivational piece, that people understanding what is happening, when it's happening, how it's happening. And the last couple of operations, human resources, and the impact management, I'm the sandwich. I do Monday leader and Friday leader, but ops and impact and human resources share their comms on Tuesday to Thursday.
Yeah, I think it is so important to keep that kind of empathy going. So I agree with both of you. I call it transparency and empathy, right? Those are the two things. So I'm a total over communicator, so I'm all in with you on the transparency point. And then I think the empathy, which is beyond just talking about, like, are you feeling emotionally well, but what are you doing yourself, or bringing stories from your customers, right? We're all very lucky that we work in spaces where, frankly, the stories of our customers are way more uplifting than probably anything that we can do from a marketing perspective. Susan, maybe a question for you. One thing I have heard from a lot of brands is how to stay authentic with their brand and make sure that you aren't, over taking advantage of the crisis, right? It's a very fine line. So how have you thought about that particular campaign?
We think about it in a way as, what can we really do that's helpful right now? And it really isn't about the brand. It's about our relationship, our real relationship with our community of customers. So I think it's pretty resonant. Like, the things that are happening for all of us are happening for them. And it opens up a line of communication of, what is helpful, what is purposeful, and can we share that information and expand our community, join with other communities. One of the things that we've done is we've always been very involved with underserved communities, homeless shelters. So we've gone out and made sure that they had a supply, along with every employee's family, so that people really feel cared for, and that they also understand that if they take care of themselves, then they have more to offer their loved ones and communities. So, self-care is really an act of generosity.
Just as individuals and as CEOs who run businesses, how are you managing the stress? Because you have to ultimately be a little bit the duck, right? Everything's very calm here, and you're pedaling like crazy under the surface. But it's a lot of stress that we're all living under right now. So what are you doing personally that you would offer as advice for all the women who are listening? Ronnie, why don't I go to you? Sorry, I'm pointing at you like that I'm pointing this bit of the...
Okay, I'm pointing back.
Sorry.
I meditate. So the structure of meditating every night, I don't manage in the morning because somehow working from home, I've worked longer hours and more than I have ever worked when I'd go to the office. And it's just funny, business seems to start at 7 in the morning and it doesn't seem to end. So I do meditate every night. I've spent more time cooking, baking, sharing food. I'm very, very fortunate that my kids live, one lot of my kids live literally 4 minutes, and we decided we were the same bubble.
Okay, yeah.
So that meant that whilst there was lockdown, there were times when I couldn't see my grandson, but there have also been times that I have. So that's made that very joyous. I did dinner parties. We do Zoom dinner parties with my friends. So that is trying to stay in touch. And yeah, just a lot of reflection, a lot of time for really just making sure that if I'm the best I can be, then I can be the best for my team. Yeah. There's not even any.
I think in our initial conversation, I said this to you, but um, it's very much like a meditation retreat, except that as we talked about before, I think that I didn't really choose it. But even on a meditation retreat, I have found, like on the third day, that there's such a deep question of my choice anyway. Like, I chose this, like in utter surprise and shock that this is how hard it is and that I actually wanted to be here. So I feel like there's a little more space in this bubble. And so I do yoga online. I got an indoor rowing machine, and I'm spending more time just outside in the sun, walking in the neighborhood. And I still go to work, most days for a few hours and then do, other meetings at home. But it's family and friends and, just being in communication with loved ones. And red wine is always good too.
Yes, alcohol sales are up.
Yes.
Here is a question coming in from our audience. I run a service that is also essential services, so thank you for what you're doing. My main concern is our employees as they risk their health right now. How do you manage this, and any recommendations besides the general protective equipment, stay at home when sick, right? What goes beyond that?
I think it's really, how are you sleeping?
Mm-hmm.
How are you eating? And is your family well? Because those are the ways to navigate stress and things that some of those things that we can control and respond to. So, we've been bringing lunch in for people who are working. We've been giving everyone gift care, packages. Can you take a bath? Can you take a hot aromatherapy bath? Can you put a few drops of eucalyptus on the shower floor and just take a moment? It's the buffer time that so many people can't either schedule in or manage to have, that helps us carry us all, I think, through this time.
Yeah. I definitely am struggling, particularly I find I have a younger workforce. A lot of them are parents. And so people who have two jobs and are co-parenting, I can definitely see the stress and strain in their world right now. So I'm actually trying to think about, how do I give people permission to just take, everyone worked through spring break, to take a day off or do something that truly kind of clears the deck for 24 hours, even though I, as you mentioned earlier, kind of live in this perpetual fear of we're going to miss the opportunity in some way, and the whole economy is under duress, so it doesn't feel like a time to lean back. But I think creating some of that space is important. Ronnie, you have people really on the front lines too, right? They're delivering food, they're working with homeless people. How have you thought about really protecting their health?
Obviously with the protective gear that we can, but we've really tried to, we can't make working on the front line flexible. For all our workers at home, it's flexible. You've got kids, if you need to do your work, be with your kids in the day and work at night, that's totally fine. You do what works. There's no clocking, no nothing. Mm-hmm. For our frontline workers, they don't know, but we're about to give them gratitude days. So literally, gratitude. We haven't had time, really. We've all been so scrambling that it's absolutely in on their health, and if they need a time off, using casuals and finding replacements. But they're about to all get gratitude days off, so that they understand how much we appreciate. They also get messages, notes every day saying, you are the best, you are our heroes, you are the representatives, you are our front line. And, that acknowledgement is important, but quite honestly, they are on the front line, and giving them all the best equipment to clean their vehicles, to make sure that they can manage safe distancing. But ultimately, we have to recognize that they are at risk. There's not even any doubt about it, and just show gratitude.
Yeah, it definitely does. I think this whole thing has made us realize that a lot of those I'll call them almost hidden people in your neighborhood, like the grocery clerk or the postman or postwoman. I mean, these are people we've not really maybe thought about, and yet they're so essential to our day-to-day lives for how we get food and so on, and they are putting their lives at risk. We have to call it, because I could chat forever because you're both so amazing and so interesting. We always ask at the end of every Ladies Who Launch event and panel and keynote, what's the one action you want the women listening right now to take in the next, call it like day or two?
So I think that two things: self-kindness, just be gentle on yourself. We can get so hard on ourselves. So be gentle on yourself, but give a random act of kindness. I think that the richness of giving is so empowering, that do something that you just hadn't thought of for somebody else just randomly. And if I could share very briefly, I walked into my greengrocer the other night, rushed out from my house, bought all my shopping, came to the end. There were very few people in the store, which is why it was safe. And it was 1 minute before closing time. She packed all my veggies into a basket. I scrambled in my bag and saw that I didn't have my wallet. Now I looked like a white-haired old woman, distraught at 10 o'clock at night. And I said, can I just leave? Can I just call you in the morning with my credit card? She said, no, got it. You just leave your goods and go. And as I was starting to unravel my goods and put them back on the shelf, a young man from behind me said, hey guys, we've got this. We are taking care of this. If I could give you a hug, I would, but I can't. So please take your shopping and go. This is on us. You know, I just bawled all the way home because I didn't know them and they didn't know who I was. And it was just a beautiful moment.
That's
and
amazing.
So do something for someone when they're least expecting it.
I think I'm going to cry now too. Okay, Susan.
That's just so beautiful. I just keep my car stocked with hand sanitizers and my pockets stocked, and I just hand them to, every essential worker, and then families, and I just love doing it so much. When I came into the store that's closed, someone on the bench asked me, hey, do you have any hand sanitizer in there? And I was like, yeah, of course. And I just went out and handed them, like, can we pay you? I'm like, oh no, so really, I think that the giving and kindness are just underrated in terms of what they actually do for ourselves and each other.
Yeah, I could not concur more on this point. So I write about it a lot, but it is a known thing that we think of kindness as altruism to the other person, but actually what it gives an individual is a feeling of actually you're able to impact the world. And in a moment of a pandemic where it feels like so much is happening to us, it's actually our way of being able to say, no, I have some ability here to stand alone, to have my impact on the world. And so what a beautiful way to end this call. Thank you both. So definitely, not just random, but specific acts of kindness. Okay, so with that, thank you. Ronnie from calling in from Australia, Susan all the way from the West Coast. Really appreciate your time. Ladies Who Launchers, we have a bunch of stuff on our website around COVID-19 tips and tricks, but even beyond that, just great tips and tricks for managing and running your business. So please check out the Ladies Who Launch Academy. And with that, we'll see you again soon for another lunch with Ladies Who Launch. Bye.
Thank you.
Yes, go to Here for Hope if you just want to feel good. Bye.
Bye.